Welcome back to another episode of Let's Face the Facts. I'm your host. My name is David Almeida. I'm an actor in Orlando, Florida, and every week I sit down with an actor or artist friend. We watch an episode of the classic sitcom, The Facts of Life, and then I hit record. Then we talk about the show and use it as a springboard to reminisce about old television, things from the past, and pretty much anything else we can think of to gab about. My guest this week is Eric Pinder. I've said this so many times about, my guest today is a really funny guy, a comedic actor, a funny lady. And I love working with this person. I feel terrible that I find myself saying the same things about people, but it's just I work with so many amazing, talented people. And I don't think I exaggerate when I say many folks in town would say Eric Pinder is one of the funniest comedic actors in town. He's also a very good friend, and I'm good friends with both him and his husband. And it's just, I forgive me for having so many amazing people surrounding me in my profession and for not having significant enough vocabulary to give each of them their own specific due, because it is really an embarrassment of riches down here. And I hope this podcast is a little tiny bit able to showcase that. Anyhow, Eric is a little sick, so I did my best to edit out the coughing as best I could. Hopefully also not catch anything in the process, but if I had a nickel for every person saying they hope they didn't catch something from Eric Pinder, well, anyhow, before we go on, I want to welcome my new Patreon patron, Jennifer B. Hi, Jennifer. She actually comments a lot on the Facebook page, so it is really nice to be further connected to you. If you are listening and you would like to be a patron of the show, hop on over to patreon.com/facethefactspod. Back to today's show, Eric and I watched Season 4, Episode 6. It's entitled Dearest, Mommie, and the original air date was November 10th, 1982. I think we're ready to jump on in, kids. Let's face the facts with Eric Pinder. Well, here we are. Hello, Eric Pinder.
Hello.
Welcome to my home.
It's lovely. The new addition is very nice.
It's good. I think the West Wing really is my pride and joy.
That stained glass, I think, is worth it. I don't know how long you had the nuns working on that, but clearly they know their stuff.
They did it in shifts to save their energy. I'm particularly proud of the archways and the bust of Nefertiti that I do have in the foyer. Not unlike the one that is in Natalie's mother's parents' apartment in this episode.
Dad not actually there. Also, that stereo. I was looking at that stereo equipment. I was like, oh, girl, that was so high-end then.
Oh yeah. That was a big deal. I had like the 8-track and the cassette, didn't it?
It did.
Have both?
Well, and then also, too, like, I was looking at all the knobs.
Mm-hmm.
Knobs. But they, just looking at it going, oh, yeah, this would have been high-end with, like, how you adjusted it and everything. I'm like, the prop department went all out.
Yeah.
I was looking, too, at, like, all the decor in their room, and that Natalie has the Pirates of Penzance, but also a New Yorker poster, as so many other 15-year-old girls would.
But... And it was a time, was the Marx Brothers poster there? I didn't notice that. There was a time.
Yes.
There was the Marx Brothers poster. Early on, they had her with a liking of the Three Stooges. We've had that multiple times, but it doesn't kind of follow through. Her mother in this episode talks about a Greta Garbo movie. Like that would be something they would sit down and watch together.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, Natalie is kind of this lovely mixed bag of 15-year-old girl and middle-aged Jewish writers for a sitcom.
Kvetching. Always kvetching. Yes. It's so funny because we watched this show, but I remember mostly really liking Charlotte Rae. But now in these later seasons, it's less of wacky Charlotte Rae and more like, I'm understanding Charlotte Rae. And, like...
and is that your impression of Mrs. Garrett, Eric? Because that is a very wonderful, coveted thing that I try to organically evoke from my guests. Because I do a lot of bad Mrs. Garrett.
Oh!
Girls! So feel free to join me in doing your bad Mrs. Garrett whenever you are so
Natalie,
inspired.
just open it. I did enjoy in this some of the blocking they had. The thing about putting the letter down on the table.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and no, go get it, open it, put it back down.
Yeah.
You know, and then that I'm like, oh look, someone had forethought instead of them just standing staring at each other in this room.
And they moved in a triangular kind of a thing.
Yes.
It's funny because Brandon Roberts noticed them doing some good triangular blocking, but the episode I watched with Natalie Dolliner, she was like, it was like a ducks in a shooting gallery. It was just this single plane of them back and forth.
Yeah.
And in this season, every episode is directed by the same man, the same one who did this, Assad Kalada, not to be confused with his sister Pina Colada. That's a Natalie joke. I have to give her credit for it. Did you watch the show growing up?
We did. I mean, so refresh my memory. This would have been on
This is
Friday nights?
This would have been Wednesdays.
Wednesdays.
At
Okay.
9 o'clock after Real People.
Oh, okay. I don't think we watched Real People.
Yeah.
But 9 o'clock, yeah, I probably would have been watching TV then. There was regular watching. Back in the old days, children, when we only had 3 networks and PBS from which to choose, and then the independent channels that played like a lot of crap that I loved. Oh, yeah. So in Detroit area where I'm from, you know, they had some actually pretty good independents, but we also got the CBC.
Oh,
Because we were, you know,
Yeah,
Detroit
you're
is actually
close.
north of Windsor.
Sure.
And yeah, and the river's right there. So we got the CBC channel. So I watched a lot of Canadian TV as well.
Wow.
Curling, as a matter of fact, believe it or not. Yeah, well, you know, it gets lonely on the CBC in the winters at 3 in the afternoon. But yeah, so I also saw a lot of SCTV there as well.
Oh.
So there was a lot of, you know, great Canadian TV I was exposed to. But, you know, something like this that I'm like, would we have watched this? And by this point, I'm trying to remember if we had cable. But if not, we had...
82 was a little early.
Well,
It's
then we
possible.
had On TV, which was the pre-cable service where one of the channels went like wonky and you had to have the converter box to switch it over. And they maybe had, I think, like 10 movies a month that they played.
Oh.
I'm exaggerating, but...
So like a proto home box office.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I remember on TV watching Star Trek Wrath of Khan over and over instead of studying for math homework, actually. and probably failing that test because Wrath of Khan was on yet again at like 9 p.m. But yeah, so it was 8 to 10. That was it. Because I think it started at 8. And then from 8 to 10,
so it was just
they
a
had movie.
block of time.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And then Friday and Saturday, they had the softcore porn. You know,
Yes.
like, yeah, you know,
Yes.
and so the thing was, like, I remember my friends said they would try to like take the TV and do the horizontal and vertical and do those knobs to get it unscrambled.
Yeah.
And it never actually worked.
I see a boob.
Yeah, exactly.
Or an
For-
elbow.
Yeah,
Not sure.
For like a second, you know, a hot second of it. But I think, you know, I remember watching some of these, and I think we probably got disenchanted as time moved on. But I also don't remember what was on at Wednesday night because I remember my parents watched Dynasty, but that was Thursdays, as I recall. And I had no use for that, even as a Gayling, which I find interesting now. That, like, why was I not obsessed with Dynasty?
Real People was on from 8 to 9. That was opposite 7 Brides for 7 Brothers.
No, we never watched that.
Even we weren't that gay. I didn't watch that either.
No.
And ABC had, in the fall, Tales of the Gold Monkey. Don't even know what the fuck that is.
Nope, that probably got replaced quickly.
And then in the spring was High Performance. And then mid-season was The Fall Guy.
Oh,
And
which
that-
ended up having a long life.
That was the Lee Majors
Oh, yes.
show after
They
$6
probably
Million
moved it to
Man.
shore up something else.
Oh, and what is going on here is The Fall Guy had been on at 9 o'clock. They pulled it back an hour.
Ah, interesting.
So the 9 o'clock block was The Fall Guy. And then on ABC, CBS was Alice, which was very highly rated.
Oh, yes. So we would have watched Alice then.
Yeah, followed by Filthy Rich. In the spring, it became the CBS Wednesday night movies. So if it was a good movie that was on, you might be inclined to watch it. But The Facts of Life was on at 9, and then it was followed by either Family Ties, Taxi, or Buffalo Bill.
Okay, so Family Ties I did watch religiously. So then that's when I would have watched. I would have seen it only because it was on before Family Ties, which I loved.
So, Eric, we just watched this episode,
A very special episode.
they all are so special
There was a lot of earnest acting going on, I must say.
Yeah.
There-
And not bad acting, but just earnest.
yes, and a lot of pauses and silence. And
Yeah. And a dearth of laughs in what is a situation comedy.
yes.
But yeah,
Well,
just
when
watched...
your big laugh is supposed to be, oh, Blair is learning how to yo-yo, and she does it around the world, and she's flinging it over her head like a lasso, and that makes everyone jump and scream, and the laugh track kicks in. You're like, oh, I'm okay.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Well, so I'll try to be brisk about it. But this ran...
Because I got a man waiting on me instead of those
that
fags.
fag.
How dare you? She's wearing a wig.
It's a wig! It's a wig!
That's how gay we are.
In the words of Harvey Firestein, he does that in one of his albums, and he just pauses as the laughter dies down. He goes, "We now know who in the audience is gay."
Yes.
So this episode is called Dearest, Mommie. Speaking of gay and titles, Mommie, Dearest, little wordplay there. I see what they did.
Clever.
This ran November of 82. So in 1982, we were both 13 years old. When were you? Wait a minute. When were you born? You were born in what?
67.
What month though?
January.
Oh, January 6th. Oh, so you're a year and a half older than I thought. You were less than a year older.
Well, great. Now you've told my age on the internet. Fine.
And,
I've cleverly tried to disguise it.
Eric, no one listens to this show.
Oh, okay.
I promise
All right,
you.
good. All right.
I will cut
So
that out if you want me to.
No, I'm 52. Whatever. Move on.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, yes. So, 82, I would have been bad at math.
So you would have been 15.
Yes. So, I was even more awkward at that point.
Yeah, so you were 15 and I was 14.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
but yes.
I would have been the same age technically as they are because she says 15-year-old.
Yes, and I will note, we will get to that later, they are wrong. Natalie is not 15.
Well, clearly not, but
No. But, I mean, we'll get to that.
All right.
So, we start with all this activity in the cafeteria.
yes.
And no food, never any food, but activity. And what is going on here is this weird thing that sitcoms do, where a person gets a thing or achieves some little tiny thing. That is cool. In and of itself is great. And then everybody around them automatically leaps to fame and fortune and notoriety. And what is going on here in this cafeteria, which
never has food.
Never has food, and uncharacteristically is full of other students. Usually we don't get other girls. There's a lot. I think I counted 8 extras.
Yeah, no, I did notice that.
Yeah, and that's not typical.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. I kept thinking, oh, well, so these girls probably got work on a rotating basis, depending on...
Not in the least.
Because that one was horrid.
We'll
with the
talk
glasses.
about
Okay,
her.
sorry.
Yes, we will talk about her.
All right.
But they're talking like, oh my God, Natalie is the focus. Natalie's the focus of attention, and
Yes.
they're like, oh my God, I wonder if you're getting an expense account. Oh, you're going to be so famous. You're going to know everything, everyone. You're going to, and
In that weird exposition way that they have to do.
and then Mrs. Garrett says, "Oh, Natalie, your life's not going to change. You just got chosen to do a column for a big-time newspaper in New York, and your life's going to change."
Yes.
And anyway, one of the very funny lines is Tootie starts talking about, you're going to be hobnobbing with celebrities. Imagine Natalie and Woody. Natalie and Warren,
yeah.
Natalie and Dustin. And when she says Natalie and
Woody Allen. Yeah, that's just, wow. Well, back then.
And these are appropriate. Warren Beatty, Dustin Hoffman, yeah, and Woody Allen. They were 1982. That is New York famous.
Well,
right
yeah,
there.
but Woody Allen would have already done.
Annie Hall.
Yeah, I know. Manhattan. Isn't that the one with the younger chick? Isn't that Margot Hemingway?
Isn't all of the Woody
Okay,
Allen
point
oeuvre?
taken. Point taken. But maybe not Hannah and her sisters.
Which is that movie where Woody Allen is paired up with a much younger woman? All of them.
All of them.
Yes.
Creep fest. So, yeah. Well, I mean, again, now it's something that,
Yeah.
I hate to say, that's just how it was back then.
No,
But
no, it wasn't. And recently, because as we know, Ronan Farrow is a very respected and prominent journalist now. And at one point he was in an interview and they said, so I understand you're not very much on speaking terms with your father. And he says, no, I'm not. And they're like, why is that? And he says, he's married to a woman that is my sister.
Yep.
I grew up with her. She is my sibling, and she is now married to my father. And the fact that there was this attempt to wallpaper over, he's marrying his stepdaughter. Well, it's his stepdaughter. It's not like he's marrying his daughter.
Yeah,
it's
no,
just a
it's-
woman that he raised from the time that she was an infant.
Yeah, no, it's just no matter how you look, it's just creepy. And
It's so beyond.
But, and he's an artist. Sure, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
I still don't have to like it.
Yeah. So is not Brian De Palma. Who's the other one? The
Roman Polanski?
Roman Polanski. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah, so great. Thank you, Rosemary's Baby. Mm-hmm. So she's going to be very famous because
she's going to be famous and be hobnobbing with Woody. And in case I missed the joke later, at one point, Natalie is not going. And we'll get to why in just a minute. But Tootie comes back at Natalie with, "It's okay, Natalie. Maybe you could do it later. Woody will wait for you."
Yes.
And I'm thinking, no, she's 15 years old. In a couple years, she will be too old for him.
Yeah.
Sorry, had to be said, people. So all of this fame and fortune, oh my goodness. And then this one girl does walk up. This girl with this beautiful dark feathered hair. And she has the line.
Oh, the hair. The
"Congratulations, Natalie." And then walks away. That girl is, she is credited as girl number 1. She doesn't have a name. She's credited as girl number 1. I looked her up. I do not know how I have missed this. She is either girl number 1 or plays a character named Linda. The actress's name is Kimberly Craig. And she, on her IMDb, if IMDb is accurate, she appears in 56 episodes of this show.
Wow.
Between now and season 8, when they're not even in school anymore. I think I smell a little somebody padding their resume.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I can't believe I somehow missed. If she has the name Linda, that means she would have said a line in an earlier episode. And it claims to have her have been there since season 2. And we're in season 4 now. I'm not sure I buy it, but 56 episodes. Any listeners out there that know about this Kimberly Craig situation, I do have some research to do, but I was quite shocked.
And is that the only credit she has?
No, she's in one other movie called The Best Movie Ever Made in 1994, and nothing else.
Wow.
So I wonder if she's not somebody's, like a daughter of a
Yeah,
producer or
because,
something.
she had one line, and it wasn't all that great. But
Yeah.
The other girl, though, the annoying chick.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
With her glasses. But the hair budget, though, like, how much do they spend on hairspray?
And we're not even in the highest of the hair. The highest of the hair is still coming in a couple years when the 80s really kick in. But this is a column for a New York newspaper. And they're saying, "Oh, Natalie, your name's going to be a household word." Yeah, because, writers, our culture has always been so into the writers.
Although, to be fair, I mean, people that would have been watching this in the 80s still would have remembered Walter Winchell, or Dear Abby, certainly was famous, and Rona Barrett's gossip columns.
Yeah.
So things like that. There were columnists that people knew.
Yeah, it did certainly had more weight now.
Well, it had more cachet, but now people are bloggers,
And
and they write podcasts.
Yeah. Losers.
Podcasts.
But apparently it's going to be a column called Nat's Chat. And we learn expositionally about it by this girl who walks up, a different girl with glasses on. This girl named Brenda.
Oh.
And she's not good.
No, she's horrible. Is she in other episodes?
She is in, I think, 3. This is her second of 3 appearances. But here's the weird thing. In this episode, Brenda walks up and she literally, cuts Natalie down and says, "Nat's Chat, a column written by a teenager's point of view on their social life and their friends and their family. Why would anybody want to read that?" So she is being a total.
And furthermore, if a New York newspaper is actually, I mean, I'm assuming it's probably not the Times.
Yeah.
But, is it the New York Daily or one of the many newspapers there would have been? Is it the Brooklyn Tribune?
I know.
I mean.
It's that you're writing for a newspaper.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, we can't say any because that's favoritism. But, so, but the other thing is, apparently, if they've decided she's good at this, they want to give her a chance. Clearly, it must be something interesting or filling a niche. But
I guess, but and that's great and all and fine and
but
good.
Again, it's a MacGuffin.
Yeah, but this this girl, Brenda, though, had previously appeared. There was a brief time the girls were not in the cafeteria working off their debt. And so when they moved back into the dorms, Brenda was introduced as Natalie's roommate for this brief period of time. And Brenda's thing was she was dry as paint. The joke was, Mrs. Garrett, this is Brenda. Hello, Brenda. How are you? Adequate.
Funny.
She was supposed to be like the emotionless brainiac. And again, she has glasses, you know?
And bad hair.
And yeah, well, just, uninteresting hair.
There you go. All right.
Yeah. But so it's so weird that they brought her back for her. Why didn't they bring back the bitch that was giving shit to Joe for her mother being a waitress back in season 2? I forget her name was. But it's like, what a weird...
Oh, maybe she was pregnant.
What a weird thing to do with this character of Brenda. And she does have one more in episode 15. So that's like 9 more episodes. She will be in another quick little cameo. But I'm like, what a weird, complete 180 as far as character. She and Natalie were friends. And, you know, it would be one thing if we had the understanding of being on the spectrum. If we had more Sheldons from Big Bang Theory, where it's like she is dry as paint, super smart, and she doesn't understand socially that it's not cool or appropriate or gracious to say to someone, I don't understand why anybody would read a column that you would write.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's like that's really giving them a lot of wide berth of interpretation to create something coherent about this character.
Well, Judy does come in later and do that whole thing about like, Brenda did something stupid in art. You usually love that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she does. She mentions that. It's very, very odd. Anyhow, then Joe comes in.
So what? So there's actually like a B plot, and the B plot is about a yo-yo?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's...
Now, again, to go back in time a little bit to the young whippersnappers, if you think about older TV shows, if you think of I Love Lucy, if you think of even Happy Days, Three's Company in the 70s and coming now into the 80s, any sitcom was one story that would involve all the characters. Even Golden Girls. Cheers was one of the first. I've been recently trying to watch more of Cheers because I didn't watch it in its original.
Oh, really?
run.
Oh, that was another one we had loved.
Yeah. Oh,
so we watched that all the time. Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah. The fact that it would evolve to Seinfeld and Friends, where they would have A, B, C stories.
Taxi did that sort of thing too, because...
Did it?
Yeah, because they had individual cabs they drove around. Mm-hmm. So not only would they meet in the garage and something would happen, but there'd be, you know, like... they'd be alone and then have a driver they picked up, and then stuff would happen with that, you know, person or whatever.
And what I also imagine Barney Miller was kind of like that. Like
yes.
Barney Miller, they would have this person's dealing with this case. This guy's got this one behind the bars. Yep. I feel like Barney Miller would have also been an earlier example.
And Barney Miller was another show we watched faithfully.
I did not. I'm a little too young for that, Eric.
Oh, that's true. Yes. I forget how fresh and... Yeah. So young and so fair. So you've mentioned so often.
Nubile. So
she has a yo-yo. And
so Joe has a yo-yo. Thank you for getting me back here. And Joe says she's cleaning out her trunk. We assume the trunk of her motorcycle.
You know what? I'm just going to say that's got to be a lesbian euphemism.
If Matthew Arter were here, it would be. He absolutely would say that.
I'm cleaning out my trunk.
Hey, Blair, need me to clean out your trunk? So she has found this yo-yo, and now here we utilize all the other girls in the cafeteria. Joe demonstrates some of her mad yo-yo skills.
Yeah. And always unimpressive, by the way.
It was fine.
It was, that around the world is difficult, but at the same time, it's, you know what?
You can learn it.
Walk the dog. Yeah. That's what I want to see.
Yeah. So, Blair is not impressed, and Joe basically says, you try, and Blair just lets it drop. Blair, sometimes, again, rich and privileged, sometimes they just write her fucking stupid. And it's like, how do you not realize that there is some effort involved to make a yo-yo go down and come up?
Because she had other people for that. She had servants who did the yo-yo for her.
She just watched them do it. But
they had a yo-yo steward.
But she would have... Please put that on your resume. Yo-yo steward for Blair Warner.
Yes, exactly.
But the thing is, she would have at least observed that. It's like one of those. It's like doing what she did implies she had never seen a yo-yo.
But it's like the laziest thing you could possibly do. You know what I mean? I mean, if you're going to do some stunt that everyone's worried about, it should be, she should be juggling chainsaws or some such crap. You know, I mean, it's just lazy writing.
Yeah. So at this point, we're suddenly like, Blair, due to the fact that Joe makes fun of her for not having any yo-yo skills, Blair says, give me 1 week and I'll be able to do anything you can do. And so it's like, that was the point. I was like, oh my God, this is a B story, people.
But they didn't even, again, there was no bet. She just said, if you're going to say, give me a week and I can do it, you must think they'd be like, all right.
You want a wager.
Yeah, a wager for it. You know what I mean? Lost opportunity, bitches.
I agreed. So then Natalie is preparing that her mother is going to be taking her out to lunch. One assumes a celebratory lunch, and one assumes out of cycle because everybody, literally everybody in the room is dressed in their school uniforms, meaning this is a school day. But Natalie's in street clothes and she's going to lunch with her mom. It's like, I guess you don't have school today? I guess.
And also lenient school that lets her stay overnight with her mom. Well, I guess Mrs. Garrett saying it was okay since it was a special occasion. But at the same time, what are the rules? Also, Joe really would be in trouble for not wearing her outfit correctly with the tie down like that.
Yeah, with the tie open and the rolled up sleeves.
That is not allowed.
Yeah.
You have to have your uniform on properly.
Yeah, uniform. It's called a uniform for a reason.
Yes.
So anyhow, Natalie goes off to get her coat or change or whatever, and in comes Natalie's mother. Now this is Mrs. Green. They call her Evie. Evie Green is her name, so we assume that's short for Evelyn.
But also Evergreen.
Evergreen.
As an ideal mother. Is an ideal maternal type. I was shocked by her sort of dowdy sweater thing with the collar that didn't stay properly aligned.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It did not. I was like...
You weren't impressed with her outfit?
No, I wasn't. Her Hausfrau gown, however, and near the end, I was like, that's nice. I did not mind that because it's a nightgown. But still, if that is technically a New York-style apartment they're in, then you would have thought she would have had a nicer schmata for the nighttime. But
well, I'm glad you say the word schmata because Natalie is Jewish. And even though she is, and it's only slightly sometimes alluded to, it's never said specifically. We know she has a Ukrainian grandmother who was around during the pogroms and stuff like that.
Okay, interesting. It's that weird thing sitcoms do where they're like, here's the exotic Jewish girl like Rhoda Morgenstern, say. But we're not going to Jew her up too much.
Right.
You know what I mean? We're just going to do the shticky like I'm kvetching and oi and I can't believe and I'm loud.
You're absolutely right. But one of the things that Natalie often does do is she talks about her mom. It's like, I'm in trouble now. Don't call my mother. She's going to have a heart attack. Oh, I'm going to hear it from my mom. There have been many allusions to the fact that Natalie's mom is your typical... kind of a nudge about
and this
things.
Was the last thing I saw from this woman's portrayal. It was very like ABC after school special mom who cares.
Mitzi Hoag was really Gentile acting. And her father, now here's the thing. We do know that her father is Norman Burton.
He's clearly on call at the hospital for something because they mentioned that.
But we met him in an earlier episode.
Oh, okay.
And Norman Burton is a very middle-aged Jewish doctor kind of a guy. He was Joe Atkinson on Wonder Woman.
Oh my God. Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
That I even know that is sad.
I knew you would know it.
But why? Why do I have that? And I don't remember what I had for lunch yesterday, for God's sake.
It's true. Anyhow, so he was the dad, and there's definitely, he's a Jewish, obviously he's a Jewish guy, and he seems
so he married a Gentile, maybe.
Anyhow, the actress playing Natalie's mother is well-known character actress Mitzi Hoag. Mitzi Hoag, according to the Wikipedia. Over the course of her career, she appeared in more than 73 different TV shows and movies. Notable among these are recurring roles in We'll Get By. That was a short-lived sitcom with her and Paul Sorvino.
Oh, my God.
Bonanza. Here Come the
Who
Brides.
wasn't on Bonanza?
I know.
It ran 25 years or something.
Every actor in Hollywood, yeah. And
it's
then
like every actor is on Cannon and Mannix.
And The Partridge Family. which was just these are probably all one-offs, but she's one of those character actresses who worked and never didn't work. And she passed away only this past February.
Oh, wow.
And when she died, her death was highly covered in the press. And it said Mitzi Hoag of The Facts of Life, Bonanza, and Partridge Family. Like, her top credit was that she was on The Facts of Life.
Yeah.
3 episodes.
But still,
she's one of those Love American style actresses where she's done a ton of stuff. And when you see her, you're like, oh yeah, I know I've seen her in something. Can't fucking tell you what.
Yeah.
But the funniest thing is that just to kind of elevate my little endeavor here is the fact that because she was on The Facts of Life, that was, like I said, that was the first credit. If you look at all of the obituaries out there online, that is the first thing. That is the longevity and the staying power of this weird fucking little show that ran 9 years.
Yeah. 5 too long.
Yeah. I'll give you 3. I'll say 3.
Okay.
Well, let's move on, but let me do this. Let me broadly synopsize the episode.
All right.
Okay. And then we'll go back and keep talking about the little bits and pieces.
That we hated. Okay.
Natalie's mother, I do have to stop already, illogically comes in and says, so where is she? Where is my famous journalist daughter? And then Natalie comes in. We meet her. The girls all have a history. They know her. She knows Mrs. Garrett. And then no sooner does
sideway
Natalie...
kisses.
I know, really. And no sooner does Natalie come in, and the mother's like, well, we're going to talk about this thing at lunch. And Natalie's like, what do you mean we're going to talk about it? And she's like, let's wait till we get to the restaurant. Natalie's like, no, tell me now. And suddenly the where's my famous journalist daughter very quickly comes to, your father and I have decided we don't want you to do it, and we will not let you do this column thing. Because
apparently it's too strenuous. There are deadlines, as if she's not at a private school and has things to do.
But the weird thing is, it sounds like it is going to intrude. And Natalie's like, we need to go to Mr. Parker and tell him about classes that I might have to miss on Fridays or whatever, because I'm going to be going into the city on the weekends. There's also a sense of, is this column not somehow designed? If it's going to be a teenager's point of view, it wouldn't have been conceived with the idea that, okay, if it's a teenager, we need to make sure it's not a full-time job because a kid needs to be in fucking school.
But again, it's sitcom logic.
Yeah. Anyway, Natalie, in her anger with her mother, lashes back with those words that have been spoken in so many sitcoms and after-school specials. You're not my real mom. And we do know this because season 1, episode 10 was Natalie revealing to the girls her deep, dark, horrible secret that she's adopted. And if you want to listen to that one, Megan Maroney and I do a very in-depth analysis and tell our own adoption journeys, because Megan and I are both adopted.
Yes.
And I really had hoped that we were also long-lost siblings, but unfortunately that's not the case.
That did not prove to be the case.
No, it did not. So through the course of this, so then the next scene we go up to the bedroom, and Tootie is talking to Natalie, and Natalie's like, I'm upset over what I did to my mom, and I feel bad. Mrs. Garrett comes in with a letter, and the letter is from Natalie's mother, and this is where we talked about earlier. There's some good blocking in the handing of the letter, so read it. No, she's just going to be handing me a guilt trip. This is the Jewish mother kind of thing about, no, I can't take it, I'm going to read it later. No, you're going to read it now. She reads it. Natalie, you're right. You do need to know things about yourself, and you do need to learn them. Here is your mother's name. And her mother's name is Ellen Mannheim.
Of Mannheim Steamroller fame.
Weep, 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 weep. Weep, 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 weep. So the last part before we go to commercial is Natalie. My mother's name is Ellen Mannheim. Long, uncomfortable, pensive moment. We call these the Thornton Wilder moments.
Oh, I would have said it was worse than Pinder, but
oh, okay, yep. But we'll give you a Pinder too. But Pinder is all about the subtext. And
that's true. And there's no subtext here. It's just we're pausing because we don't have enough filler.
Yeah, and because fades are mechanically complicated in 1982. So now we're at commercial, and this is the point where I get to know my guests a little bit.
Oh, hooray.
So, you already talked about you were born in Detroit and raised up there.
Correct.
In the
by
Great
wolves.
White North.
I went to a private school, actually. I went to a co-ed day school. It was the oldest established co-ed day school in the greater Metro Detroit area.
Wow.
University Liggett School.
Wow.
Yes, I went to school with Fords and Dodges. So I was, yes.
Shut up.
Shut up. No Chryslers, however, strangely enough.
No, really.
But we did have
no Yamahas, no Toyotas,
Mrs.
or
Etzel Ford, actually, the gym in the lower school is named for her. Yes, and pretentious enough as it is, we had lower school, middle school, and upper school. That was how our schools were called.
wow.
Yeah, so I started in 4th grade. I did go, we called them lifers, people who started in pre-K and went all the way through 12th grade. A lot of people, based on their families, would go only up through middle school, and then for like upper school, like, the high school 9 through 12, would go to like a boarding school somewhere, like, because that was their family tradition. Wow. So I was always kind of like the lower middle class kid who was smart enough to go to this school, and just my parents barely affording it. So I was the kid who wasn't in like the fancy Grosse Pointe houses, but I grew up knowing all those kids. There were 72 in my graduating class, to give you an idea of how small the school was. Yeah.
And now, what did your parents do? What was
So my dad was an engineer for the automotive industry. At one time, had his own stamping company that ended up getting bought out. Of course, everything was upended in the 80s because of all the Japanese imports. So this was a tough time in Detroit metro area. My mom also worked for the automotive industry as various administrative assistants, but she was known as like the woman you wanted to have because she got shit done. You know?
Good.
Yeah, Madge did not put up with shit and got things accomplished. So she was always highly coveted as a secretary. So she did a lot of executive things and stuff like that. But my dad, as an engineer, actually, his great claim to fame is he's one of the people that works with Chrysler to develop. He did steering wheels. That was his big deal.
Oh.
He was a steering wheel guru. He could look at steering
Wait
wheels
a
and
minute.
tell
Your
you.
dad is of the steering wheel Pinders?
Yes.
Wow.
I know, it's very exciting. He actually worked with Chrysler when airbags started coming. They had to decide like what is the proper tensile strength for these wheels so they can burst through. The airbags can come through.
Yeah.
So he did a lot of that work when airbags were starting to become a standard thing. So that's one of his big things that he did.
Now, when did you start performing? You have posted some amazing pictures on your Facebook and your Instagram of you as a young child dancer.
Yes,
and performer.
It was early on. So 6th grade was my first big role. I remember 3rd grade, I was the king, and it was this energy play. I still remember I got rid of Cole because it was too dirty. I found that very interesting. I still remember that I shouted and bellowed, and apparently everybody was very impressed at my acting skills in 4th grade.
Wow.
But also, so 6th grade would have been my big role, the jester in Once Upon a Mattress.
Oh, okay.
Because that's what middle schoolers should be doing.
Yeah.
Is Once Upon a Mattress. We didn't really get why Lady Larkin had to leave the kingdom, like why that was so important, how they had to get married.
Yeah.
That kind of got left out of our Thames Whitmark score or whatever it was. So we didn't really know about that. But yeah, it was early on, and it was my mother's fault. I was starting to enjoy things like that, and she brought me in from playing outside to watch Singing in the Rain, which was on.
Oh.
And yeah, so I blame her.
Wow.
For so many things.
So were you actually were put into dance classes?
I begged. So yes, they did put me in dance
Wow.
classes. Yes. And then I was the only boy. So then I had to do I just wanted to take tap, but then I had to do jazz, of course. But then I had to be in the Polish dance troupe because they had a Polish dance troupe. And I was like, I'm German and we pretty much decimated you. So do you really want me in your troupe? But I was the only boy. So therefore, yes, I was in the Polish dance troupe.
Boys, at that age, boys are very hard to come by.
So I had to partner all the girls in ballet as well as that too. They wanted me in ballet because they didn't have any boys, and they had to have someone to partner all the girls in floor work.
Wow.
Yeah. So I did a lot of that though, and then
when did acting actually?
It was
like when did you decide that was what you were going to go to school for? I was a freshman.
And was going to work my way to that was what I was going to do. My parents were like, "Oh, it's a phase," At one point, my mother was like, "Oh, well, you could be a trial lawyer. They have to do acting." And I'm like, "I don't think you really understand why I want to do this at all." So they were actually very frustrated that I was going to go major in musical theater, which again, children, the most practical degree you can get is a BFA in musical theater. I highly recommend them.
That's money in the bank, kids.
Right there. You are so hireable. But yeah.
And where did you study?
Michigan State. I got my BFA from there, and then I got
Did you commute or did you?
Yeah, I lived up in East Lansing, so I lived up there. It's a 2-hour drive.
Oh, okay. So
it wasn't-
not too. Same here with me. Yeah, I was.
Yeah,
I was 2.5 hours, so I lived in the dorms, but I wasn't that far.
Yeah, I could come home when I needed
laundry.
to and see things. Well, no, I did my own laundry, but there were so many shows going on in Detroit, or Broadway things coming through, or like the Smiths were playing, and
Oh wow.
yeah, my dad got tickets for that one year, so I had to go back home and see that for God's sakes. But so yeah, and then my MFA in theater performance, theater with an RE, bitches. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Theatra is from University of Florida, and then that like I knew that I'd be playing character parts and still looked I was a twink before things, twinks were a thing, really.
Yeah.
Before that was a category that was desirable.
Yeah.
I was just like the thin young guy that maybe had AIDS, because it was the 80s.
Oh, geez. Oh,
So,
Lord. Yeah. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
So, because it was all about Madonna's hunky backup dancers, like in late 80s,
Mm-hmm.
So nobody wanted twinks, and now they're so desirable. I'm like, I missed out.
Yeah. But it was
anyway.
such a different time because, that was the time when it was like, oh, you're gay? So how long have you had AIDS and when are you going to die?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
so there was so much lovely internal shame as well. But I lived up there, and then down here.
And University of Florida is up in
Gainesville. So it's like 2 hours from Orlando basically.
Yeah.
So then, and then I was like, well, I'm going to play these character parts, but I'm not old enough now. Yeah. So let me see what's going on at Disney. And then years later, still plying my trade here. And
how many years later?
26.
26 years with Walt Disney. Wow. And you and I have this weird situation where our full-time gig is we play the same role.
Yeah.
So we work together,
but
we see each other together, but we do not perform together.
Yes.
And it's so weird. You likened it to, you said we're like the husband and wife who he works the day shift and she works the night shift. And
we see each other in passing.
Yeah, that's kind of what we do.
But then also, my husband was one of your old roommates.
True.
And we did not meet when you guys lived together, even though I knew you from Sleuths.
Yeah.
It wasn't until he was living with Larry that we actually met.
Yeah. Suddenly it was like, Dwayne is like, do you know this guy, Eric Pinder? He says he works at Sleuths. I was like, him? Oh, he's awful. I was like, dump his ass as fast as you can. And
18 and a half years later.
And he didn't listen to me. Damn it. And
well, I had that gypsy curse on him.
Yep.
That pretty much paid for itself. Thank you. Thank you, Romani.
Yes. And I'm still single and lonely.
But you have this podcast to keep you warm.
Oh my! So, we've already discussed that you grew up in Detroit, so therefore you are basically Canadian.
Yeah,
and that explains why you are also well known to this community as a hockey aficionado.
Yes.
And Dwayne is the other gay man in Orlando who's into hockey, which is why it's amazing that you two met.
Well, to be fair, he was not as into hockey when we met. He knew about the Detroit Red Wings. When we met, I was wearing a hockey jersey.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things that he was like, oh, the Red Wings, because he had a previous boyfriend that had knew. So I was like, oh, this guy knows about hockey. Well, then I found out he didn't, but it was already too late. I had the gypsy curse, so he wasn't
it
going
happened
anywhere.
already.
But
we got that strand of hair out of his head. And,
exactly. Serve him my menstrual blood. I'm sorry. People haven't seen Midsummer. That's spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
But yeah, and then we got married before a hockey game.
And you did. I was at the wedding. It was a glorious time where we the one thing we didn't plan for was that we were going to have to walk. We knew you were getting married
at center ice,
on the ice, but we didn't realize we were going to have to walk across the ice in our street shoes. So it was
no one fell. I was very pleased about that, to hear no one bit it.
Megan Maroney grabbed onto me and said, David, I am not letting go of you until I've made it safely to the tarmac.
To be fair,
there.
they had carpet for everyone to stand on during the ceremony.
Yeah, the carpet there, but getting
to the carpet was a chore. Yeah.
It was like
Dwayne and I didn't want to fall either. I'm like, oh please God, don't let us fall on our wedding day and slip on the ice. That's not a good omen.
Yeah, but it was just like, you have to swim the moat with the gators in it. That is like, that is your task
to side quest before you get to the wedding.
To this wedding, and it was so much fun. And I'll post a picture. So other things that you are known for in town, you are also one of the foremost authorities on opera. A gay man into the opera. I'm not sure the world is ready for that, but please tell about how that happened.
I hated it for a very long time. So the irony that it now obsesses me, I'm obsessed with it, and it's taken over my life. It actually, I was always a musical guy, but I did enjoy classical music. So I was getting into that. And when I got to Michigan State, the guy who was the music director for our musicals was indeed a huge classical music and opera fan, and to this day still is. Conducts the Vienna State Opera, as one does. Is actually in Vienna right now conducting the ballet Sylvia, Leo Delibes' ballet.
Oh, yeah, that one.
The
one that you
chestnut. Anyway, so he's a famed conductor, and has conducted all over the world, and is Springfield, Massachusetts. He's the principal conductor of the Springfield Symphony.
Oh, okay.
And also the Traverse City in Michigan as well.
Wow.
But yeah, so he's, he does stuff. But he hit me to opera. He thought I would enjoy it, and was right. And but it was his tutelage, really. Now, I think it was like 5 years ago, I was talking to him, and he's like, "Oh God, what have I wrought?" So yes, I'm obsessed enough with opera that I'm going up in April to see the complete ring cycle of Wagner, all 4 operas at Chicago Lyric. Yeah.
How long is the running time?
Well, altogether it's about 14 hours, 14 to 15, depending on who's conducting. So the first one's 2.5 hours, no intermission. Second one is about 4 hours. You have 2 half-hour intermissions. Each act's about an hour. The third one's about 4.5, and the second one's 4.5 to 5.
My God.
Yeah. So the final night of the Rings, I go to the opera at 6, and we're done at midnight.
Wow.
Yeah. No, it's a bit much.
That's crazy. And your love for opera has extended and kind of meshed and merged with your theatrical training and your background, because you also, not just actor, singer, dancer, you are also a writer and a director.
Correct.
And you have directed for Opera Orlando.
Yes, and then Florida Opera Theater before that.
Yes.
I've directed for Orlando Light Opera. I think that's what they're calling it now. I've done a couple other things. I've written. There's a Mozart one act that I reworked and rewrote. I did a rewriting of The Merry Widow, updated it to the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
1990s instead of 1890s.
Oh, nice.
Thank you.
Nice.
The tech boom in San Francisco.
Okay,
they needed
sure.
her money for a startup instead of to save the country.
Oh, okay.
As it is in The Merry. I'm sure you're familiar with that lovely operetta, The Merry Widow. Velia, Velia, the Witch of the Woods. That's the only song anyone knows from that. Nope, nothing.
I don't even know that. Cricket.
Everyone's turned off now. All 5 listeners have vanished. Anyway, so yes, I direct opera. I also direct directing Brighton Beach Memoirs at Valencia. So yeah.
And you also are somewhat of I've used this term before because I've had other fringe darlings sitting on that couch or sitting in front of that microphone. And you also do qualify as a fringe darling in that you have done these very well-received triple threat thing where you have written, acted, and directed, or
That's
paired
true.
with Ray Hatch, who has directed you.
Yeah.
But you've done enough fringe projects, and then you go on to host the fundraisers and the preview events.
So I'm a fringe notary.
Yeah. Is that what you're called? Is that what?
Maybe notoriety.
Yeah. Again, is that what they called you when Beth Marshall took the sword and put it over each of your shoulders?
No, I think they thought the idiot that will do things for free. I think that's pretty much.
There it
No, I
is,
guess I am
yeah.
a fringe name. I never.
Yeah. Your fringe name, I like to use the fringe darling. Like I've said that about certainly Mark Baratelli, Kevin Kriegel is Mitzi Morris, and I know I'm forgetting somebody else here, but they are. That's a big thing. The Fringe Festival theatrically is a huge thing in Orlando, and it is no small feat of your talent to be one of those who kind of cream rising to the top type.
Well, I got lucky.
Yeah,
but
you got lucky.
It paid off.
Yeah, or you're super talented, and you live in a community that I have said many times actually appreciates and rewards talent and recognizes it. And that is a wonderful thing about why I love living here.
Yes, and wants to see talent on a regular basis.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think I've covered all the bits and pieces of the many that I wanted to just say, this is who you are.
I am a multitude.
You are. And just the last bit of information is you and I do get to perform together. Thankfully, we do get to share the stage at the wonderful Sleuths Mystery Dinner Theater in Orlando.
Still going strong.
Still love that place, and I plug them every chance I get. Sleuths Mystery Dinner Theater, www.sleuths.com.
Stop on by. David and I are completely different drag artists.
Yeah, that's true. We wear dresses. That was worth the price of admission right there. I am very glad, finally, after being at work and hearing about this podcast endlessly, never hearing me shut the fuck up about it, I'm glad you're finally here and hopefully enjoying and seeing what all the fuss is about.
Yes, no, and having to go back to watch this show and see some of the horrible hair.
Oh, and fashion too. Don't forget the horrible fashion.
But I don't remember Charlotte Rae having green eyeshadow.
My thing is I can't even see the eyeshadow for the blush. There's so much
There's
blush.
Well, yes, because they're trying to give her that softness.
I guess. I don't know. Oh, yeah. You see, and that's it. And they didn't understand true contouring back then as far as her face is fat. How do we make it look skinnier?
Exactly. Put blush on it and make her look jolly.
Yeah. She looks like Mrs. Claus and she's 19. So we come back from commercial now. And the sort of long and short of it is we have a scene in Natalie's bedroom where she is planning to go and meet her mother. She went through the phone book, found her mother, and is going to meet her. And a great Jewish Natalie moment. What have I gotten myself into? Mother's Day is going to cost me a fortune.
Yes.
I mean, very, very Jewy.
Yep.
Just got to say it. So at one point she does say, well, I don't even know what I'm going to say to her. Why'd you give me up 15 years ago? Okay, Natalie is 16. She is not 15. Natalie is 16. 3 years ago, she was 13 when she was first looking at this possibility of finding her mother. Blair's mother was dating a judge at the time. And apparently Blair's mother is such a good lay. This judge opened up sealed adoption records.
Well, she unsealed her legs and he unsealed the records.
Sheboygan! And so at one point, the episode ended, season 1, episode 10, with the phone ringing and Natalie, that is the information about your mother. And Natalie wasn't sure if she was ready, and Natalie decides not to answer the phone. So that's where we left that. But that was 3 years ago, and it was explicitly stated that she was 13. Just saying. I obsess over the girls' ages a lot, by the by.
Okay, Woody Allen.
Yeah, exactly. So Natalie is kind of back and forth.
Maybe she didn't give her up until she was 1. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Then Sis Garrett comes in. And, of course, we need the moment of wisdom, of warmth, and bolstering her. But
also,
before that...
why do they all hug each other sideways? Like, they cheek hug.
It's called camera blocking, Eric. Look into it. Yes.
Don't smudge my blush.
Exactly. You'll get it all over you.
I just put this on.
But the thing is, we do close up the loop of the Blair, Yo-Yo, Joe B-plot. Because Joe comes in and Blair is like, oh, I'm here to show you what I've learned. And Joe's like, yeah, in a minute. And so Joe, beautifully.
And lovely, heartfelt.
She's telling her how proud she is. And Joe is being beautifully empathetic. And she points out that, it was weird when I went to visit my dad when he was in prison. And I didn't quite know what I was going to say then. And we know because that happened on the show.
Yeah.
So for them to call back to another episode and for Joe to be so empathetic and supportive was really nice. Really lovely.
Yeah. Even though she's a dyke, so
Hey. No, you don't. She marries a man. No lesbian ever married a man in history.
No man who was gay ever married a lesbian.
And Blair is demonstrating. And then not seeing that Joe has not been looking at her. At the end of it, she's like, well, what? What did you want, Blair? She's like, I just showed you all my yo-yo stuff. And Joe's like, I was talking to Natalie like you were just able to watch me do 3 feet away.
Yeah.
So then Blair's like, fine, I'm going to do this around the world thing. And like you said, she goes to around the world and ends up swinging it like a, what did you say?
Lasso.
Like a, yes. And swinging it over her head and a big physical comedy. Hit the dirt. Oh my God, she's going to blow. We're all going to die.
Well, but the girls run, like Tootie and Natalie run from like what would be basically stage left to stage right.
Yeah.
You know, and like through what it is instead of ducking underneath the twin bed over there where they'd be safer.
Yeah.
So they all end up on the same bed.
Yeah.
So Mrs. Garrett can come in and freak out and do a big reaction, and she's not anywhere near it.
It's so completely contrived
And lazy.
and unsatisfying.
Yeah.
We just want to say that. So this was their first dabbling with an A plot, B plot, A story, B story, and Facts of Life. Back to the drawing board, boys.
For their A and B story, they get an F.
Yeah. So then we have the Mrs. Garrett, Natalie, warmth, nurturing scene. And Mrs. Garrett, thankfully, does acknowledge that this has been brought up before. And she says, Natalie, I'm not going to do the voice. She says, Natalie, a few years ago, you wanted to find your natural mother. And you thought that maybe you should wait until you'd done some growing up. Well, whatever happens today, I think you can handle it. Beautiful little Mrs.
It is
Garrett
lovely.
moment.
And poor Charlotte Rae. I mean, seriously, this is a really thankless part.
It is.
And she handles it with such grace and dignity. And, and let's face it, she probably needed the work.
Yeah. She was doing, what we were saying is we're like, if she hadn't done this show, she probably would have stepped in for Angela Lansbury and Sweeney Todd. She had the pipes. She could have fucking done it.
Oh, yeah.
She did Jack's mother in Into the Woods after this show. But that means if she played the Barbara Barry.
I think so.
Yeah, if she was Jack's mother in Into the Woods, that means she could have also been in Sunday in the Park in the Barbara Barry track as George's mother. Because she was a working character actress, and Norman Lear used her constantly.
Well, she has such a great face and voice.
Yeah.
I say coughing.
Yep, no, that's fine. So the scene ends with another long Natalie looking at herself in the mirror, pensive, thinking shot. Now, weirdly, it doesn't dissolve to Natalie's mother sitting at her apartment. It hard cuts, which is very odd because it should have been a dissolve, and they certainly had enough damn footage of her staring at herself in the damn mirror. But,
with absolutely no music, may I add, which is a nice touch. I'm glad at least they don't try to do like... Da, 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 da.
Da, 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 dum, da, dum.
Yes, the mournful facts of life in minor key.
But yeah, no, this show never had any, not till the later seasons. Remember those, those last 3 seasons that shouldn't have existed?
Yes.
That's when they added the music. So then we're at Natalie's parents' apartment, and Dad is, we learn, at the hospital. Natalie's mother is in the couch in a very stylish, frumpy nightgown.
The color's good for her complexion, though. I'll give you that.
It is. It's lovely. And basically what we end up landing on is Natalie apologizes for what was said. They kind of hadn't spoken since their fight. And...
everything's good for a while.
Everything's good.
Then it isn't again.
And then, so but they make up and it's great. And then Natalie says, I met her. And she's like, met who? And she goes, my mother. No, I think she says her. And Evie. Evie is like, oh. And then Natalie starts talking about her, saying, yeah, she lives in this great apartment. She was nice. I was nervous at first. She made me some carrot cake. We talked. She showed me some pictures. I look a lot like my grandmother. And that weird sitcom thing where Natalie's mother's like, oh, look, here's a letter from your friend. I have to go put this away now. Oh, I've really been meaning to straighten up this desk. I'm going to have a completely different conversation because I can't deal with this one.
Yes.
Does anybody do that in real life?
No.
I don't believe so either.
They rarely even do it in sitcoms anymore.
Yeah, truly that. It
went out with drunks being funny.
Yeah. And then Natalie says, well, Mom, what are you doing? Don't you want to hear? And she gets this, no, Natalie, I don't want to hear another word about it. I'm sorry. I'm glad you found her. I know it's important to you. What did you say when that happened?
I was like, oh, hello, bipolar.
Yeah. Or sitcom character writing.
Yes.
But and she very quickly recuperates. And she says, I'm sorry, I don't know this person, but she has a bond with you. And I like being the only mother in your life, which is nice.
Yes.
And then they go into this thing of, Mom says, it's hard to say no to your child, especially for an adoptive mother. You feel like you're always competing with someone more lenient or more fun. It comes with the territory. Now, this is where I wish my parents were still alive. I wish I could have asked my mom, did you feel that way when you were my parents neglected me just as much as all the other kids' parents
Yep.
in the 80s, left me to fend for myself as much as, I don't know.
Like I said, I was raised by wolves.
Yeah.
So...
But they were attentive wolves.
They were.
Who paid for your private school somehow.
Had sent me to dance class and bought horrible sequined outfits for me to appear in.
Oh. But Natalie does admit, and this is true, I didn't look for her because I was unhappy with you. Being adopted, you automatically have questions. And that's kind of nice, and that's kind of true. The idea of her saying, Mom, you realize me looking for my birth mother has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
It's about me. And Natalie does have this nice little thing where she says she thought she would have a lot of answers to a lot of questions very quickly. And what she discovered was she's a nice person who works for the phone company and makes great carrot cake. And she said it was like fitting pieces into a puzzle. She's allergic to strawberries. That's why I'm allergic to strawberries.
The whole family is allergic to strawberries.
Yeah. But then she says, but I kept looking around her apartment, trying to find something of me, and I couldn't find it. And then I come here, and Natalie starts going by, this is the chair where I sat on Dad's lap, and this is the stereo system with a lot of knobs on it that Eric Pinder admires. And
the Queen Nefertiti statue. That
yeah, oh my God, yes. And she says, this place, this is me. And for all intents and purposes, she's saying, this is still my home. You are still my family. And I can't believe the show didn't actually say that explicitly as I just said it, because for all the on-the-nose writing that we experience. But
the ending where they sit and they chat on the couch.
Yes.
And it slowly goes to a photo.
It zooms
of the
in.
Two of them.
And the dialogue slowly fades away. It was kind of artistical, I have to say. For this show, that was pretty fancy. They've never really done something like that before. And it worked, I think.
Yeah, no, it was nice. Like, oh, look, they have this bond.
Yeah. That they're going to be okay.
Yes.
It may not be the same, but they are going to be okay.
I did enjoy the Greta Garbo's been a recluse for 40 years. She can wait a little longer.
Yeah.
That
was a nice thing. And I mean, Natalie, because of the Marx Brothers, the Three Stooges thing, you're like, okay, I'll give you a pass on that. But there are so many times there are references that a teenage girl in 82 would not be, oh, Greta Garbo, she's one of my favorites. It's like, really? Well, we are at the end of the show, Eric.
Oh, my gosh.
And typically what I do is we end the show, whether the episode was, whether it was you take the good or you take the bad. We always end on the happy note of, tell me a commercial from your childhood that immediately pops to mind off the top of your head.
Oh, God. There was a Dorothy Hamill doll that you could make skate, and you could actually
Was there?
Yes, there was.
I don't remember.
Yes, so Dorothy Hamill, it had a little platform, and you could turn it, so she would skate, and she could do her turns or whatever. It was just attached to the platform and rotate. I mean, it wasn't but it was this Dorothy Hamill doll, and the little girl at the very end said, "Dorothy, you're a real star," in this really stupid accent. And that became a huge thing in my family, that we would "Dorothy, you're a real star." And my mother bought bowls at some second-hand place, not second-hand, but
thrift store?
No, places that had discontinued or they weren't printed properly or whatever. Yeah. And they had lipstick, a big lipstick that said star on them.
Oh, my God.
So I just, for some reason, just remember that commercial, "Dorothy, you're a real star," because we just made fun of that. And I have no idea,
wow.
Yeah.
Now that you say that, that is coming back to me. And the fact that she was on a platform that showed the skating. Did she have real hair or was it plastic hair?
It was real hair, I'm pretty sure.
Because her hair was the fucking shit.
Yes.
Everybody mimicked the Dorothy Hamill wedge.
Yes,
And it
became very popular in a lot of 80s sitcoms because Mindy from Mork and Mindy
Yep.
sort of had a modified version of it.
Yeah, a longer version of it.
Yeah.
But yeah. Dorothy Hamill's hair, I'll post a picture of it. And the thing that was crazy was it was this layered thing. It was a short-ish do. It was layered. It was long in the top, but then got layered in such a way that whenever she would do a spin or a jump or an axel, her hair would fly up in this perfect flat top with perfectly angled layers going down to her ears.
It was almost like a lady mullet,
yeah.
you know?
But without the long back. It was short.
But it kind of curled in a little bit. It was improbable hair.
Yeah. It
I
was
mean,
like,
it had,
you know who
it
had it? Carol Burnett had something similar in the later seasons.
Oh, yes.
She did later in the Carol Burnett, because again, it was the 76 Olympics. That was the Dorothy Hamill year.
Oh, okay, yes.
So it had to have been 76. So, oh my God, but that was the shit. Dorothy Hamill's hair, it was like the Rachel kind of in that.
Yes.
In that you didn't see the exact same hairdo, but wow, did it influence a lot of what else started happening around that time.
Yes, that it didn't have to be long hair. But then later, starting in the 80s, of course, it all becomes about, again, the higher the hair, the closer to God.
Oh,
and
yes.
everything's teased out for days. And men are doing it too, with Duran Duran being very popular.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
But what is the hairspray budget on The Facts of Life?
Oh, later, they clearly cut back in the writer's room to pay for the hairspray.
To spend money on hairspray. And blush.
Yeah, and blush, exactly.
She doesn't look like a hua. Put more blush on.
Well, Eric, thank you so much for making time. I will.
You are a delight.
Oh, stop. No. Oh, no, you are.
You.
It's
mister.
all you. Most of the people at the Citizens of Hollywood trailer have appeared on the show. So now you can know what all the fuss is about. You are now a part of the club.
I'm one of the cool kids now.
Yes, you totally are. So
I'm going to put on my Eastland uniform now.
I'm gonna try to make one if I do the live shows at Fringe.
Oh my God,
I'm gonna make a boy version with the vest and. I already have the patch.
Oh my God! Of course you have the patch.
Someone makes those on Etsy.
Oh my God!
Somebody
of course.
fucking makes those on Etsy. $12. Yep, and it's right next to my Tootie doll you see up there, which is.
Oh yes.
So thank you for coming over.
My
Thank you
pleasure.
for being a part of this and doing this. And I say to everybody, I hope to have you back. But more important than that, I am glad you are one of the guests that I get to see regularly. So I will see you at work.
I'll see you at work. Thank you, David.
Bye. And there you have it. That was Eric Pinder, the man, the myth, the legend. I do have a correction corner before we end today's show. We were talking about Barbara Brine, and I couldn't figure out if I was talking about Barbara Brine or Barbara Barry. We landed on Barbara Barry. We were wrong. It was Barbara Brine. The confusion is because both of these women have been in the original casts of Stephen Sondheim musicals. Barbara Barry was in the original Company on Broadway. Later was Barney Miller's wife, was Brooke Shields' grandmother on Suddenly Susan. But the one we were actually talking about is the older actress in Sunday in the Park with George as George's mother, and in Into the Woods as Jack's mother. And she was also in the film Amadeus, playing Mozart's mother-in-law. So both of these ladies are still alive. Barbara Barry's 88. Barbara Brine is 90. So Google these ladies. They've had amazing careers, and I'm happy to mention them here. Moving on, next week, I'm going to be watching Season 4, Episode 7, called A Woman's Place. And once again, I'm going to have a very special guest. As always, to my fives of loyal listeners, thank you so much for listening to this week's show. And remember, the facts of life are all about you. Let's Face the Facts was produced, written, hosted, and edited by me, David Almeida. My theme song was beautifully arranged and recorded by Ned Wilkinson. Our website is facethefactspod.com. You have to drop the let's. And that's where you can find extra pictures, video, and audio extras from the digital cutting room floor. Follow the show on social media. We're everywhere under the handle Face the Facts Pod. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/FaceTheFactsPod. And don't forget, go to your favorite podcatchers and subscribe, rate, and review. Tune in again next week for another thrilling episode of Let's Face the Facts.